What up, yo?
Hey.
Guess what?
What?
I got a book out.
Yeah.
Starlight Pulp, issue 6. Caleb's story, Giant Steps, is in the storybook collection. Not storybook collection, anthology of crime and westerns and
Pulpy.
pulp shit. It's actually pretty cool. I've read 2 stories in it so far.
Oh, okay. Did you read the guy who did Bad Boys, or is that's like the big one, right?
That's a novella at the end, Michael Berry. I've not got there yet, but another guy, what was his name? He has a hard case crime book and award. There's a lot of like award winners and shit in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because I read the bios. That's neither here nor there. You folks can read it yourself, but that is available for purchase if you want. Even though I got a contributor copy, I bought a couple copies for some people and a cool T-shirt, which is really nice. And they sent me all kinds of stickers.
Yes.
Yeah, so Starlight stickers. So you folks should check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. Spencer's Flash of the Dead Reloaded from Wicked Shadow Press is also available for purchase. His story, Hi, My Name Is, about a serial killer anonymous group that are convening in order to stifle their bad habits, but things go awry.
Yes.
One of them does not want to stifle their bad habits. My story in Starlight Pulp, Giant Steps, is a old school pulp boxing story about a former champion boxer who, on the backside of his career, and I mean backside, he is just basically fighting to pay his rent now. Obviously, there's going to be some marital problems because why not? And he ends up fighting for more than just the prize.
Then the paycheck.
And the paycheck. Same thing.
Yeah.
So anyway, today's episode will probably be short. We weren't going to record today because we got caught up with an extra episode last week. But I have things to do next weekend, and our recording schedule has diminished to the point of 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
Is mainly when we are a little flexible, but not too much. I tried to actually post this on Instagram. Maybe I'll make it like a pin thing on Instagram. I tried to put it in the bio, but the bio doesn't give enough characters. We are no longer, and this is probably for like the last year, we are no longer accepting guest requests. It's just invite only.
Yeah.
For the time being, because our fucking equipment, if you listen to this podcast long enough now, you know
it's
that
on its last legs, and
it's just not reliable enough, and it's just a lot of work, and mainly the schedule thing too, because most people can't do a very set schedule on the weekend, it seems. So if you're listening to this, keep that in mind. And if
have we been getting more like people asking to be on? Because I knew that for a while we were getting people.
We probably get a couple a week. We've been.
Oh wow.
Yeah, I haven't even opened any of the emails because there's just so many like guest requests. Like I kind of, when it comes up on my phone, I'll look just to see like the title and stuff to see if it's like Stephen King or something.
Yeah, it's somebody we might know.
That might be a little different, but for the most part, it's like a lot of publicists reaching out to me, and it's just like I just haven't found the time or the desire to fucking reply. I thought about doing a mass reply, but I still have to search out all the email names, and it's like, God damn it. So maybe if I put up a post on Instagram and Facebook and pin it to the top, like, hey, we're no longer taking guest requests for the time being. I would like to, but again, time and equipment problems. Though our equipment's working today for some reason.
Knock on wood.
Knock on the wood.
Well, and also we brought up too, it's also like whenever we have guests, we barely ever get a chance to check out anything that they worked on.
Yeah. Or shittily read a chapter or two if they send us a free book, but never get to.
And that's not fair to them.
No. And I like to think our guest interviews are usually done fairly well. I try to get as much research in, but I've been doing so much like writing and reading and stuff lately. Like we've both been working on projects that are kind of time sensitive. So it's like I don't really want to spend my time focusing on someone else's work. I know that sounds kind of shitty.
Right.
I mean, like if Nick Obregon sends us his new book, yeah, we'll read that and, we'll talk to him about that. But he's been on the show a bunch of times, he's a friend. And like if David Scott Hay, like his new book doesn't come out till next year, but I really want to read it. So if that comes our way, then I would make special time. But
there's probably a handful of people that we've worked with and talked to before that would be easier setups and schedule,
But again, that's almost invite only.
Right.
And even then, it's still limited to, when are you able to come on the show? Are we able to feasibly schedule that?
Yeah, because also, too, we are weirdly getting people from, like, all over the world.
Yeah.
So that doesn't help with the scheduling.
Yeah, and we never actually set out to be an interview guest podcast.
No.
We just would randomly get some requests and be like, yeah, I guess that'd be cool to talk to somebody, change things up. But then it got to the point where we were doing like one every week.
Yeah.
And then we had the equipment problem, so we took off for the winter. And then it's like we still keep getting them. And again, we're not actually a podcast that has guests normally.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm glad we have because we've met a lot of cool writers that we're still friends with, but it's just one of those things. Like, that was never the focus of the podcast. And anymore, I think the podcast is more of us just to shoot the shit, try to learn some new things, and keep people updated with what we're working on. But since we took down the website, it's like we're not promoting individual works on there.
True.
So it's not really like one of those things that we have to be super diligent about and focus on getting numbers for the podcast and stuff. Just kind of do it for fun now.
Right, yeah.
So like when people want to be guests on here, they probably seen like our past guest episodes and like, oh, those guys are legit. It's like, not really.
No.
Not at all. We're fucking just two idiots. Yeah. We do have a studio. I will say that. It's a nice studio.
Yeah.
But there might be a skunk in my basement.
Well, yeah, it can't be perfect.
No. You folks don't know about that? You don't need to know about that. All you know is my basement's slightly stinky at the moment. Anyway, we're going to be talking about Cormac McCarthy today. Spencer has sent me a link to the rating of, I think, all of Cormac McCarthy's books.
I don't know. I think it's supposed to be like his most like gruesome or like
Let me look at the title. How about that? Fucko.
Like disturbing or like, kind of like messed up kind of.
Nope. Every Cormac McCarthy novel ranked by how dark it is. Yeah,
okay.
You're right.
So
okay.
we were both all right.
Yeah, I didn't read the whole title.
I didn't know if it had all of the books or if it was just like his darkest one. Like,
so when I texted you back after you sent me that and I looked at the list, I said I disagree with some of these.
Right.
That's because I thought it was ranking his books. Maybe that says something about modern society, or maybe that's a writing tip about keeping your headline shorter. Every Cormac McCarthy novel ranked. That's all I read too.
Yeah.
I didn't read by how dark it is. Too long. I'm an idiot. So anyway, we'll be back in a moment, and hopefully if you like Cormac McCarthy, you'll like this episode. And if you don't like Cormac McCarthy or never read him, maybe this will inspire you to read some of his work. I know Spencer is more indifferent than I am.
Yeah.
You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me, as always, Spencer, the Tulsa Tonsil Tickler Church. I was going to make it Tunger, but I forgot the word Tunger when I went to say Tunger. Also, I don't know if Tunger is a verb. You can tongue something.
Yeah.
To tongue, but can you Tunger?
Something's been tongued.
Something's been tongued. Ew. I think Ticklers. You know what? No, you're Tunger. You're the Tulsa Tonsil Tunger. Your tonsils? Somebody else's tonsils. That'd be impressive if you could. No, I can't tongue my tonsils. Today we are talking every Cormac McCarthy novel ranked by how dark it is. This is from our friends or nemesises from Collider. I don't know if we like Collider. I don't remember.
I think they're a little wonky sometimes.
I think we've tried to do some Collider articles before, and they were not great. This comes is a new one, though. Just came out June 13th, 2025. How'd you find this?
It was like I was on my Google search, and like sometimes whenever you don't go to like the actual like Google bar on your phone, you like slide it over and it takes you to like already like headlines of stuff.
Yeah.
It was on top of there for some reason.
All right. Well, this is written up by Luke Hesbroek.
See, this is probably one of our newest
articles
we've done in a while.
Yeah, so these are the opinions, if there are opinions, of Luke Hesbroek. Haasbroek. But since I've read at least half of Cormac McCarthy's bibliography, including his darkest works, I think I would be a good judge on this.
That's why I sent it to you, because I figured you would have a better idea on especially like the darkness of it.
Well, when I first looked through this article and I thought it was just ranked by his best books, and I saw that like Stella Maris and The Passenger were ahead of some of the other works, I was like, because those are his newest books right before he died. But I was like, how the fuck? Like, that's dookie. Like, there's no way those are as good as the other ones. But I guess if they're darker, I don't know. So Cormac McCarthy didn't just write bleak books. Did you know that?
He lived bleak books?
He bottled cataclysms on the page.
Okay.
What does that mean?
He
He bottled them?
I mean, from reading just The Road and like 30 pages of Blood Meridian, that doesn't seem accurate to me. But
I thought you made it halfway through Blood Meridian.
maybe, I don't know.
30 pages of that is 300 pages of a regular book. His stories are populated by killers, drifters, prophets, orphans, and outcasts, all moving through a world where grace is fleeting and cruelty has the final word. Even when his sentences shimmer with lyricism, there's always something festering just beneath. Festering's a great word.
Oh, yeah.
So that innately dark and miserable quality doesn't mean the novels are bad, though. In fact, many of McCarthy's works are terrific, in a distinct, undeniably grim way. With this in mind, this list attempts the daunting task of ranking every Cormac McCarthy work by darkness, from pitch black to collapsing black hole, from desolate highways to blood-drenched deserts. Here's every Cormac McCarthy novel ranked by how gloomy it is. Now it's gloomy. Went from dark to gloomy. There's just no consistency. The darkness. We went from pitch black, black hole, to gloomy.
Gloomy. It's a little rainy out.
Yeah. So number 12. I'm just going to go ahead and say this already makes the list extra odd to me then. If number 12 is The Road.
Yeah. Yeah, because
that has cannibals, people locked in the basement who are sliced hunks of their they're prisoners and body parts are sliced off for feet, to cook and eat, but they're kept alive. Babies are eaten, like a lot of terrible things. If that's number 12,
father teaching his son the proper way to kill himself.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, it's like if they come for you, here's the gun. Here's where you shoot yourself. That was fucking rough. So The Road, 2006, a bleak, tender odyssey through a post-apocalyptic wasteland.
We got to get reading that graphic novel of that.
Yeah, I've been wanting to. I almost thought about doing that this week, but we were going to do an episode on it. So here's a quote. If he is not the word of God, then God never spoke. The Road is post-apocalyptic fiction at its most dismal. Nothing good in it. No. Maybe the very end and the part about carrying the fire, but it's almost like, why would you want to carry the fire in this world? I would rather just die.
Yeah, just let it burn out.
When the highlight of the whole book that makes you feel good is when they find this abandoned bunker full of food and they shelter in it for a while, but then they're always in fear of somebody finding them.
So they just leave with there's still food and stuff in it. They just take what they can. Is it weird? Do you feel like with our history, past like work history of them fucking just always having to push around that fucking janky buggy? Like, is that the worst part of living in the apocalypse? It's like I can't even have a good fucking buggy.
Just fucking pushing around a Walmart shopping cart with a fucking wonky wheel that either shakes side to side too hard, makes you crooked, or doesn't move at all, doesn't spin at all. So The Road, apocalyptic, blah, blah, blah. A father and son walking through a burned world, scavenging food, avoiding cannibals, and carrying what little hope they can. The sky is always gray. The trees are falling. Nothing is left but ash, and surprisingly for McCarthy, love. Also, the at the very beginning, I believe, the wife kills herself, the kid's mother.
No, she just like leaves, right?
I thought she killed herself.
Oh, she might.
Maybe that was in the book or the movie version.
Maybe she... I remember her like walk, so maybe she walked into the woods.
And just,
yeah.
The prose is stripped to the bone, the dialogue almost biblical, the world utterly annihilated. It's saying something that this is the author's least bleak novel. I'm surprised. So when I read The Road, I think that was my first McCarthy, if I'm not mistaken.
And I feel like that's a good, like if you're trying to get into his stuff, I feel like that would probably be a good book.
When I read that, I was like, oh, this guy is like a Hemingway. He's very easy to read. I didn't realize that The Road is just indicative of the style necessary for The Road. Like when you read it, you're like, no, this actually just fits with the fucking horribleness of this book.
The story.
The awfulness of the story. He doesn't normally, he writes these fucking, as Blood Meridian will attest to, fucking long, flowery, poetic prose. There was none of that in The Road. It was very bleak and one-word sentences sometimes, and just very
condensed,
very black and white world. It was rough. So the fact that that's not there's 11 more above that, I don't know. So it's saying something that this is the author's least bleak novel, but it's true. There's real tenderness to The Road, even more in the movie adaptation. The boy still says okay, the father still whispers stories. It's the end of the world and somehow still a love story. That love doesn't blunt the horror, it sharpens it, because the boy might live or he might not. The Road offers no answers, just the final question of how good to be good when nothing good remains. I did enjoy that the ending is not ambiguous, but there is hope. Yeah. Which actually a lot of McCarthy books do not have at all. So I get from that aspect that at least there's hope. there is something there that makes you go, well, maybe this won't be so bad. It's still terrible. Even if you, again, this world, if you lived,
right,
why would you want to? Number 11, I have not read his Western stuff, so other than Blood Meridian, which is anti-Western. So I am not familiar with these ones yet. Number 11 is All the Pretty Horses. This came out in 92. This is what made McCarthy actually famous.
I would say, this was like his big like coming out party, right?
Yeah. A lyrical coming-of-age tale set against the fading American West.
And you said this is the one you haven't read this one.
No, I haven't read, it's the Border Trilogy, I think they call it. So it's this, City on the Plain, and another one, I forget. Here's a quote. It was always himself that the coward abandoned first. After this, all other betrayals came easily. All the Pretty Horses is McCarthy at his most tender, though tender is always relative when it comes to him. This coming-of-age Western follows John Grady Cole, a romantic teenager who flees to Mexico on horseback after losing his family's ranch. What he finds there is not freedom but loss, violence, and love doomed from the start. The novel is filled with heartbreak but also moments of wonder. Horses are described with reverence, and the natural world feels alive and moral, even when the human world isn't. There's tragedy here, certainly, but also sunrises, sweeping landscapes, and a handful of characters trying to live rightly in a broken world. There is still space for beauty, for quiet dignity in the face of sorrow, and even for the idea, however naive, that love might redeem. Compared to McCarthy's other books, it's practically hopeful. And that's how it ends. So why is that darker than the other one?
Right, yeah.
How is it bleaker and darker than The Road?
Than an apocalypse?
Yeah. I mean, it's McCarthy, so I'm sure there's some murdering going on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's odd. Number 10, this is the other one I was thinking of. The Crossing, 1994. A journey of lost fate and fractured innocence across the borderlands. I like that these all start with a quote from the book. In the end, we shall all of us be only what we have made of God. The Crossing is the sequel to All the Pretty Horses, and it's more philosophical than its predecessor. This time around, the main character is Billy Parham, a teenage cowboy who traps a wolf and releases it back into Mexico, only to see that act of compassion unravel into a series of grim pilgrimages across the borderlands.
Where that wolf murders people.
Probably. Each journey becomes... Probably asshole first. Eats some asshole. I would have to. Or nut first. Each journey becomes a meditation. Wolves die, fathers vanish, and brothers are buried. Beach reading. This is not. The Crossing is McCarthy at his most mythic, where stories beget more stories, and every kindness is paid for in blood. The wolf, in particular, becomes a kind of symbol. Overall, The Crossing is a book that believes fate is blind and perhaps even cruel, but still worth confronting. Though Billy's pain deepens with each page, there remains a flicker of moral clarity in him. He suffers, but he tries to understand, and that trying matters. I like the author of this article actually did a very good job of writing these explanations and synopsises, whereas I feel many articles we read, I'm like, why are you getting paid? I hope you're not getting paid. But this guy, he can get paid. Number 9, I have read. This was McCarthy's first book I read a few months ago, The Orchard Keeper, 1965, a snapshot of a vanishing world. This is one that's very odd in how it's written, not just because of the poetic language, but because the scenes, like every chapter is broken up and weird, like you're skipping. So you go, here's a scene, and then we just skip to something else, and it's different, but this was a very bleak story. Not the bleakest, but it's very bleak.
Now, with like you reading most of his, like a good chunk of his work and stuff like that, is that like does that seem like a first like a weird like first novel, like, you know, for him, or is it like
you can tell in this first novel that he was a huge fan of Faulkner?
Okay,
so it's very Faulknerian. And all of his early works have that, but they start to morph into his own voice and his own version of being a Faulknerian writer. But this first one, you could just easily substitute it for Faulkner. I don't think people would even notice.
Just a little bit easier to read? Because isn't Faulkner a little...
No, just as difficult.
Okay.
Literally, it's like an imitation of Faulkner. And Faulkner, yeah, he's... it's not the writing that's hard, it's the way it's written. Mm-hmm. Again, the way scenes unravel and just doing a lot of things to be an asshole. Just like, how can I make James Joyce style? How can I make the reader fucking irritated? They are gone now, fled, banished in death of exile, lost, undone. Set in rural Tennessee, McCarthy's debut novel unfolds in a crumbling world already touched by violence, but not yet consumed by it. So this is a story about bootlegging, by the way, which I liked. There are killings, moonshine, and broken morals, but the brutality remains mostly atmospheric. A fog rather than a knife. This novel is more concerned with decay than depravity, with the slow corrosion of community and memory. Some reviewers found the characters to be a bit slight, but most praised McCarthy's writing style, as well as the mournful tone that runs through the whole book. Its characters are damaged but not damned. Here, the author draws inspiration from the King James Bible and Faulkner. It does make sense because like it reads like a biblical version of Faulkner, kind of. He actually won a William Faulkner Foundation Award for this book, but still manages to craft something fully his own. McCarthy's signature themes are all present, especially lawlessness, silence, and the indifference of nature, though he doesn't yet unleash them to the max. I didn't think this book was that bleak.
No.
I mean, it wasn't uplifting by any means, but it's like compared to what's going to be on this list, and that's the thing is about the road is like, okay,
That's pretty bleak, though.
The slight message of hope. Anyone who's read all of McCarthy's books, though, would still probably put that near the top 5. I would think. I didn't look through the whole list. I'm sure Blood Meridian's 1.
Yeah,
it's got to be right.
Right.
I don't. What would be 2 then? Blood Meridian. Let's do a guess because what are we on? We're going on to 8. I would say in the top 5, Blood Meridian, Child of God probably would be 2 because it's a guy fucking dead bodies, killing people to fuck them.
Well, I was gonna say I'm a little disappointed in. I mean, like you said, this is a good article, but in that last one there was no mention of fucking the watermelons.
No, that's Suttree.
Oh,
that's Suttree. We didn't get there yet. Which is interesting. That Suttree, I would feel that one would be lower on this list. Suttree is like I've talked about, is my new favorite novel. I read that. The end of last year.
It's still crazy just because like I haven't read either that or this other one that was your favorite. Like I have a hard time saying that overcoming Count of Monte Cristo or not Count of
Don Quixote.
Yeah, just from you
Very
talking, just from what you talked about both books.
Suspiciously enough, both of them are kind of adventurous.
Yeah,
just not they're very different kinds of adventures. Yeah, that book, Suttree. I don't remember that being. I mean, there's a guy fucking watermelons, which I thought it was funnier. Probably the funniest McCarthy I've read yet, but I didn't think it was all that bleak.
Now, this is top 12. Is that how many novels?
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is number 8, Cities of the Plain. This came out in 98. An elegy of doom, love, and vanishing cowboy honor. Anyway, I was trying to do the top, so I would say Blood Meridian's got to be 1.
Yeah.
Very violent. Fucking nothing good happens. Number 2 has got to be Child of God. Like I said, I wouldn't put. Maybe they'll put Suttree at 5, but I don't see Suttree being that high personally. Number 3, I haven't read The Passenger of Stella Maris, so I don't know where those fall. But maybe they are bleak. If we're going dark, then it makes sense why they'd be higher if they're very dark. But yeah, I don't know. I can't really judge the other ones, I guess. So Cities of the Plain is 8. Get kicked off. All things of grace and beauty, such that one holds them to one's heart, have a common provenance in pain. Cities of the Plain is where the final glimmers of beauty flicker out. The last novel in the Border trilogy, it reunites Billy and John Grady in a dying version of the West. Their friendship, sweet and unspoken, is no match for the poverty, corruption, and violence that surrounds them. The final twist of the knife is Grady's love for a Mexican sex worker, which McCarthy, predictably, makes sure ends in ruin.
Yeah, well, you can't be happy.
No. It's not even a hooker could be happy. By the final pages, the world has shrunk. The larger-than-life landscapes of the earlier books have given way to fenced land, broken machinery, and men lost to time. This is a story about men who love goodness and beauty, living in a world that no longer has a place for either. In this remarkably sad Western story, a whole way of being is slowly going extinct. He loved to write about the decay of a freer society, it seems. I mean, he uses the West a lot as an example, but just being able to, let's say, drive down the street at 3 a.m. in a shitty car and be drunk as a skunk and not have a cop pull you over. Like, you don't get that now.
No.
But McCarthy, that's... this one is what I would have put in the top 5. I forgot about Outer Dark. Number 7, Outer Dark, 1968.
Is that like... Because didn't he do like a sci-fi? Is this the sci-fi?
No.
No, he never did like a sci-fi story?
No. A Nightmare Southern Gothic. This is also one of my favorite McCarthy's. Outer Dark is, I think it was his second book. Incredible book. It is about a brother and sister in Appalachia, the mountains, to do the deed. She gets pregnant. He takes the baby after she gives birth in a shitty fucking, no plumbing having cabin or some sort.
Some shed.
He takes the baby out into the woods and just leaves it. And she's obviously doesn't want that to happen, so a fella called the Tinker, which is where my peddler story came about, was the idea of a tinker before I found out that's a racist term for traveling. I don't know. You can't say tinker in the UK anyway. US is not a problem. But anyway, this traveling salesman, he finds the baby and he takes it. So it's Rinthi is the girl and I think Callum maybe is the guy. And I forget why he goes out, but she wants to find the baby. Long story short, a bunch of fucked up shit happens. It ends up where he comes across these fucking drifting pieces of shit, and they're having a dinner over a fire in the woods, and what they're eating is his dead baby that they killed. And it's also heartbreaking because I don't think Rinthi ever finds out. Like, she's still looking for that baby. The world has no name. The names of the stars are forgotten. This early McCarthy work focuses on a woman who gives birth to her brother's child, only to have the baby abandoned in the woods. What ensues is a nightmare of pursuit and eraser. With 3 otherworldly figures trailing behind like reapers, Kala, the man responsible for abandoning the baby, wanders the south, encountering bad lands and worse people. Meanwhile, the mother seeks her child, and another couple raises it, not knowing the baby's true identity. There's the slight bit of hope there is because these people have this baby that the Tinker, because he saved it, he gave it to him or whatever. So you think the baby might be okay.
And then just like, you know what? I'm really hungry.
No, they weren't the ones that ate the baby. As its title suggests, Outer Dark has a grim perspective on humanity. It depicts a world where sin doesn't get punished because the world doesn't care enough to notice. In this universe, innocence is no shield, guilt offers no absolution, and no higher power is watching. It's a moral horror story disguised as Southern Gothic. The ending offers no clarity, only the suggestion that something worse is always coming. Sheesh. Also, I don't think it's actually said, they're eating the baby.
It's just alluded to.
Yeah. Because I want to say like the texture or something's described. Almost like that Coin Locker Babies. It starts with the taste of a baby's foreskin or something.
Yeah.
Like, it ends with something like that. Oh, you know what? Okay, this one makes sense. Number 6, No Country for Old Men.
Oh,
I always forget about this one.
I do forget about that. That's one that I would actually be interested in reading.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I feel like then also, like, because with watching them, granted, it's been forever since I watched the movie, but with that, like, maybe it'd be a little bit easier to keep track of, like, what's going on, just with the way he writes and stuff. It's
hard to say because every book he seems to write different. Well, not every book, but a lot of them are written different. So this came out in 2005, a modern Western thriller haunted by moral decay. So this has probably his second most famous villain of all time. The number one being the judge from Blood Meridian. This one is what the guy name is.
Oh yeah,
what the guy name is, Anton or something.
Yeah, something like that. And this is probably one of his, like, with it being modern, because like a lot of his stuff is set further, like in the not like far in the past, right?
Yeah. Also, The Road is probably the one you were thinking of as closest to a sci-fi because it's dystopian. So The Road, future, this, present, and most of his other work set in the... Well, you know what? That's hard to say because like The Orchard Keeper... No, I think those were mostly all set in the 30s.
Yeah.
I was going to say maybe they were set in the 60s. I don't think. Maybe Suttree. No, Suttree I think was set in the 40s. So I don't think he normally writes present. Stella Maris and The Passenger I think are modern. You never know what worse luck which is weird because he wrote those in the 70s initially, I think. So I don't know if they're modern. I might be wrong.
Oh, so they might have been modern at the time that he wrote them.
He might have refigured them to be in modern time, but yeah. When he wrote them, it would have been modern back then, so who knows? You never know what worse luck your bad luck has saved you from. I always love that quote. Before it was a masterful movie, No Country for Old Men was a killer book. The plot is deceptively simple. A drug deal gone wrong, a suitcase of cash, and a relentless killer named Anton Chigurh. But beneath the thriller frame is a meditation on evil, justice, and how quickly the modern world leaves moral men behind. Sheriff Ed Tom Bell isn't chasing a criminal so much as the shadow of a world he no longer understands. The rules have changed and the old codes no longer apply. Still, the antagonist is the real focus. Anton is one of the literature's most terrifying creations, brought to vivid life on screen by Javier Bardem, a moral void in human form. His violence is sharp, sudden, and meaningless. Through him, McCarthy turns the Western into a requiem and leaves you wondering whether civilization is just a thin mask over chaos and if it's already slipping. I hate that I am still not good enough writer, in my opinion, to use the word requiem just like, what word do I need? Requiem. That's the word I need to throw in here, and it makes sense. I never my vocabulary still isn't up there enough.
And isn't it so weird? Like that movie is directed by the Coen brothers.
Yeah. Well, they also did. They were trying to do. No, they weren't. They're in talks to do Blood Meridian.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't think they did. James Franco tried to do Blood Meridian.
Well.
Yeah. But
Hey, let me guess, he wanted to be the judge.
no, he was one of the cowboys.
I'm just with
He was the kid, I think, maybe.
Well, I'm just with his history.
Yeah, it makes sense. Number 5, The Passenger, 2022. An elliptical novel about grief, guilt, and quantum entanglement. This is why I'm not excited to read The Passenger or Stella Maris, because they're separate books, but they're like one book, kind of. Like you have to read them together, I guess. A lot of quantum physics, apparently. It's all about physics.
Which is like a weird thing because like just from on like podcast and like off the podcast, whenever we talk about him, that doesn't seem like a subject that would come up naturally, for his work, just the kind of stuff that he would write about.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he hates writers and loves scientists, famously. So I guess he just, that's what he's more interested in. But why anyone would want to read that, I don't know. I suppose it is in the nature of things that for everything you find there will be something that you lose. The Passenger is a dense, mournful work about a salvage diver named Bobby Western, haunted by his genius sister's suicide and pursued by vague governmental forces after investigating a sunken plane. So it sounds like a cool.
Yeah.
Western wanders through New Orleans and across Europe, searching not for answers, but for some corner of the world untouched by entropy and memory. Spoiler, he doesn't find it. He has good names.
Yeah.
Yeah, like almost every book, he has like very memorable names for the characters. As his surname indicates, Bobby is a stand-in for a whole society. The book is heavy with philosophical despair. The darkness is quieter here, existential, intellectual, laced with regret. There are no shootouts, no overt acts of brutality. The result is a ghost story without ghost, where the only thing being hunted is meaning itself. It's not McCarthy's most violent novel, but it may be his most spiritually exhausted. Number 4, Stella Maris, 2022, a cerebral dialogue-driven statement on madness, mathematics, and metaphysics. So again...
Now, did these like because those were his 2 newest ones, did they actually come out before he passed away, or were they like...
I think he died.
Before they actually like came out?
Yeah, he might have. Maybe he died right after. It was around.
Yeah,
this is a similar time.
I'm not saying that he didn't have them finished, but I mean just like the publication of them.
Apparently, he was also, I think, in talks of writing the screenplay for Blood Meridian when he died, if I'm correct. I think if you wanted to understand the world, you would not read books. You'd talk to people. Stella Maris is McCarthy's bleakest work in structure, if not in body count. Composed entirely of dialogue between Alicia Western, Bobby's sister, and her psychiatrist, it reads like a philosophical suicide note, detailing genius, trauma, quantum theory, hallucinations, and a deep loathing for the human condition. Alicia is brilliant but haunted. Her brother is gone. Her intellect has turned corrosive.
So he was really swinging for the fences there at the end.
Everyone thought that these books were going to be like a tarnish to his legacy, because famously, all McCarthy scholars are of the opinion that he's never written a bad book. I think he has one screenplay that's not good. Maybe it's The Counselor or something. But as far as like actual books, they claim everyone's great. They were worried that these 2 were going to be shit, but apparently upon multiple rereadings, these books are good.
Oh,
but
multiple
this one,
though?
Yeah, well, they all read the books over and over. But this is, Stella Maris is all written in dialogue, which would throw me. I've read books all dialogue, but it's not a long one though.
Yeah,
Passengers, I think, pretty big, and this one, which pisses me off because I pre-ordered both of them.
Yeah,
it's a set, and they never sent me the pre-order, and I ended up just canceling it because it was like the book was out for like 6 months, and they still never sent me my pre-orders. And it's like, fuck it, I'm not even getting this now. And they were supposed to be like hardbacks, but it's like I like paper. You know me, I'm a paperback guy anyway. Indeed, this is a book about what it means to think deeply and how thinking too deeply can undo a person. Alicia, unlike Bobby in The Passenger, has no illusions. She sees the truth as a kind of curse, and she suspects that death may be the only honest answer. The conversation becomes circular, not out of laziness, but because truth resists narrative. This was the author's last published work, and it serves as a fitting bookend to his bibliography. Number 3, again, I'm very surprised this is so high up. Suttree, 1979. A sprawling, poetic portrait of Knoxville's riverfront underworld. I guess it could be bleak in the fact that everybody is dirt poor, and Cornelius Suttree, the protagonist, essentially he leaves his wife and his I believe his boy, I think it's his son, dies after, and he ends up like, I'm not gonna get into it, but he basically leaves his wife and stuff, and he's kind of a drinker, and he goes down and lives on this shitty shanty riverboat in this fucking dirt town. I think it's Tennessee. Yeah, Knoxville. And it's basically just all very, very poor black people living in sheds and shanties and shacks. So 3 S's. But the way it's written is you almost want to live there because it sounds kind of not fun, but just like the way people engage with each other. You're like, that ain't so bad. There are no absolutes in human misery, and things can always get worse. It also starts, I think he meets the pumpkin, or not the watermelon fucker guy, which is one of the best characters of all time. He meets him in a workhouse, kind of like he got not jail, but you're like forced labor because you did some bad shit. You know, obviously, the guy was fucking pumpkins, or the guy was fucking watermelons.
I mean, yeah, pumpkins would be ridiculous.
He was bumming watermelons, bunging.
Yeah,
pumpkin that might hurt. All right, that quote captures a dark key theme in McCarthy's work. Hell is a bottomless pit. Here he explores that idea with a more autobiographical approach and a touch more black humor. It's about Cornelius Suttree, who abandons his wealthy family to live in a houseboat on the Tennessee River, drinking, brawling, and befriending the lost souls of Knoxville's underworld. It's a novel where sewage floods the streets, corpses turn up bloated in rivers, and joy is a drunken hallucination.
And watermelon fucking.
Watermelon fucking. It was one of the funniest scenes I've ever read in anything, and it was written so beautifully that I reread it multiple times. Might be my favorite scene in anything.
I'm saying, does it give you like like the Joyce fat fiction like
yeah,
like
but
kind of like
but it's so poetic. It's not crass, surprisingly. In this one, McCarthy's prose flows like the river itself, glorious, filthy, and indifferent to your pain. Yet, despite his lyricism, Suttree is a chronicle of physical and spiritual erosion. The people in this book aren't bad, they're broken, and the world doesn't care. There's beauty in that indifference, but it doesn't offer comfort, and there's definitely no redemption. I think maybe just because I grew up poor, when I mean, not as poor as these people, but I grew up, pretty bad poverty.
If we were living back then, we would probably be growing up that poor.
We'd be that poor. And I grew up a blue-collar working man, so I didn't read that as bleak.
Oh, that's familiar.
Yeah, I read it as familiar. So, like a lot of the things in the book, I was just like, oh man, that would have been tough to live through. But I've, have experience with most of it.
Man, I wish I knew somebody that was bunging watermelons.
Yeah.
And then I met Spencer.
Then I met the Spencer, and he was a watermelon bunger. The way it describes his like pale butt cheeks in the moonlight, like thrusting into the melon. Number 2, Child of God. 1973, a chilling descent into the mind of a necrophilic outcast. This book is very short. I would recommend you read it. It's so fucked up.
Yeah.
Lester Ballard, the protagonist, is a short, and I watched the movie, which is was it a James Franco movie maybe? I don't remember, but it is pretty close. It actually shows the guy taking a shit in the woods, and it shows it coming out of his butt, and I'm like, oh yeah, just to give you how dark the movie, like the actor did it for real. The movie is not as gross as the book, though.
Well, I mean, yeah,
it's more descriptive in the book, but yeah, he's doing dead ladies. Well, first he finds a dead woman, and he gives her the old in and out, and he kind of falls in love with the corpse. Then his house burns down with the woman in it, and he's a fucking fucked up guy anyway. And then he takes to actually killing ladies to get his because he doesn't want to do them while they're alive.
Well, yeah.
Who would? It's too much work.
Yeah.
They think people like Lester Ballard are rare. They are not. That was the scariest fucking part of this whole book, is like Mccarthy paints the picture in a way that you go, there's a lot of Lesters out there. I've met some. You've met some. You just don't know how depraved they really are.
So when was that written? Do you know? Does it say?
It came out in 73. So probably in the 60s.
So do you think that like the Lester, like the Lester molester thing, like, like Lester the child molester kind of thing, you think like he had a part in like...
No, because you're thinking of Chester.
Yeah.
It was Chester the molester, not Lester.
But
yeah, no. Lester's different.
Yeah.
But also the same. Child of God is part character study, part grotesque fable, and completely disturbing. It follows Lester Ballard, a necrophilic drifter in rural Tennessee who lives in caves, commits murder, and slides into a state less than human. Yet again, there's no redemption arc, no moment of insight, just rot. The subject matter is unspeakable, and the prose is appropriately blunt, more sledgehammer than scalpel. A movie adaptation was made, but it's best avoided. I like the movie.
How hard do you think it was to get that book published? Like once he got done reading it and he was sending it out.
He was still not popular by any means, so he was just writing academic stuff. So probably not that difficult just because the publisher knew most people were going to read it. But subject matter, yeah, I was very surprised. But then again, the 70s, that's like Taxi Driver era, you know? Things were pretty bleak and fucked up anyway. This is the book that stares into the abyss and finds a face staring back. The horror isn't just in Lester's actions, it's in how easily the world forgets him or perhaps never saw him in the first place. Ballard is what happens when society fails so completely that its discards begin to rot and crawl back out of the earth. McCarthy refuses to moralize, he just shows you what we try not to see. And number 1, can you guess?
Blood Meridian.
Blood Meridian.
Now, you still haven't... Did you ever get around to rereading this again?
No, my plan is actually this year I'm going to read Moby Dick again. And then read Blood Meridian after, since it's kind of based on Moby Dick.
Okay.
And then maybe I'll have a better, not just understanding, but appreciation. Also, when we went into Blood Meridian the first time, we read it for Halloween, and I was thinking it was going to be a violent, fun affair.
Right,
yeah. I didn't, other than The Road, I didn't read McCarthy, so I was like, I don't fucking know. So I was not in the right mind frame for the language.
Yeah.
Like, now, though, knowing what it is, I think I could actually better appreciate it. Still might not like it, though.
Yeah.
I don't know. A brutal, visionary epic of manifest destiny soaked in blood. This came in out in 85, and he was still not popular, like I said, until All the Pretty Horses. So it actually went out of print. So other than scholars, nobody saw the genius of this book. But now it's one of the greatest, apparently. Whatever in creation exists without my knowledge exists without my consent. Blood Meridian is not just McCarthy's darkest novel. It's possibly the darkest novel written in the English language. The author's masterpiece, it draws loosely on historical events to tell the story of the Kid, a nameless teenager who joins a scalp hunting expedition across the U.S.-Mexico border. What he finds is not war, but apocalypse. The darkest figure of all is Judge Holden, a bald, naked philosopher warrior who speaks like a god and kills like a beast. This book is legitimately heavy-going, and one can't be blamed for not sticking it out to the end. Fair. Yeah. The violence is relentless. We talked about this on the episode we covered. It's so mundane because there's so much violence. It actually becomes mundane, and you're just like, you get desensitized, and you don't even, like, there's like a dead baby tree and all kinds of awful rapings and stuff. And you're just like, okay.
Next.
If it was one scene where you just, oh shit, there's a baby tree, like, fuck, that's horrible. But when it's like so commonplace, it's weird.
Another baby tree.
Yeah, another baby tree. The violence is relentless, the language is beautiful, but diseased, and evil dances in the open. McCarthy doesn't flinch from any of this darkness. Instead, he describes babies nailed to trees and landscapes soaked in horror with the same poetic precision he gives to sunrises. Tough, tough stuff. And then the next article is 10 great novels to read if you love cinema. That'd be interesting.
Now, do you think maybe, like, because, we were talking about, like, darkness of, like, with the list there, do you think maybe he might have skewed a little bit more to just like the books he liked the most, like, like his favorite McCarthy books, other than like...
I mean, that's assuming he read all of them.
True.
As far as I could tell, he didn't say he read any of them.
Right.
As far as I know, he used ChatGPT to write that article. I don't know anymore. But I will say that as someone who has read at least all the more disturbing stuff, I can't imagine the Border trilogy supplanting The Road. Like, that just doesn't make sense. Like, what could be in the Border trilogy that is more bleak than what's in The Road?
Yeah.
Blood Meridian, yes. Orchard Keeper, nah, I don't think so. Child of God, yes. The first two, spot on.
Right, yeah.
Suttree, I mean, I can get it because of the poverty that's shown in the book. And
more like the depressing of it, maybe, like being like the depressedness of like the people that are involved in it.
But the thing is, it's so funny. It's hard to say, like, dark humor, yes, but still humorous enough that I guess it offsets the bleakness. But again, I can relate to the book too much. If you were just like a normal upbringing type of person, you read that, you'd probably be like, oh, this is fucking awful. But let's see. No Country for Old Men, having just the movie for knowledge, yes. I mean, the guy's fucking killing people with cattle, not prods, the thing you shoot in their head, the air gun.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, flip this coin. Dead. So that I get. I don't see how The Road doesn't get top 5, though. Yeah. I think that guy just didn't want to have one that was, this is a gimme, I mean, I would personally probably put The Road at 3 or 2 or 3. It's hard to beat Lester Ballard fucking corpses, so I'd put it at 3. But yeah, that was still a solid list. Like I said, I didn't read the The Passenger, Stella Maris. I still got half of McCarthy's books to read.
Right.
I always Westerns, reread Blood Meridian as well, which is anti-Western, and then read The Passenger and Stella Maris. I'm just...
You can't, I'd imagine...
The metaphysics and shit, I don't know if I could deal with it, because apparently it's actually pretty heavy on the physics. Like, you would have to read about physics to understand what he's talking about, and it's like, I don't think I want to read that. Like, when it was announced that those books were coming out, I was like, I don't know if I want to read that.
Like, that does not seem appealing.
Yeah. Actually, the next McCarthy book I'm going to read that isn't Blood Meridian is probably going to be No Country for Old Men, which we can read that together if you want.
Yeah,
Because I think you'd like that one. You like the movie. Though, if you got the time, I would recommend Child of God or The Orchard Keeper. I think they're both under 200 pages.
Okay.
I think I read them like 2 days. Or no, I think maybe it was The Orchard Keeper was the one I said, like, I thought I was going to read it in like a day or two, and it took me like a week because of the language.
Right.
But the Child of God's not so bad.
He doesn't really write, like, because even like Blood Meridian wasn't like that big. It was like, what, like 300, 400 pages? It's not like it was a big novel. It was just like getting through.
Yeah, I think Suttree might have been the largest. That was like 400 pages maybe. But yeah, most of his books aren't very long.
Well, because again, like with the subject matter he's talking about, to have it like, for like, to try to do that in like an It form, like to have like 1,000 pages and be like, oh my God, I don't give a shit. Just be over. I want to be done.
The interesting thing about McCarthy is it seems at least most of his books, if not all of them, aren't really centered on the story ever.
There's more just like the people that are in the story.
Well, think about The Road. What's the actual story? A father and a son are traveling across the wasteland trying to find some kind of civilization.
Yeah, just trying to survive.
There's not really a story there. It's just about their survival, so it's a character piece. The Orchard Keeper, it's maybe more of a story, but the way it's written, it doesn't unfold like one. But it's about like a guy who's bootlegging. But the story's very loose. The fucking Child of God, not much of a story. It's just Lester Ballard molestering dead bodies. Suttree was a story. No. It was just about the people. It was like there was no, here's our protagonist. Here's what he wants to end up, or what? Nothing. None of that.
He's good at like writing characters.
Yeah. The what was the baby? What the fuck? I forget the name now. All of a sudden, Child of God, The Orchard Keeper. Outer Dark was more of a story because it's about two people trying to find this baby. Mm-hmm. That's about as close to a story. Maybe it's border trilogies or stories, but I don't know. Blood Meridian might, I guess, been close to a story, but story's very loose in his work. Anyway, folks, thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that. I thought that was a pretty good article. Yeah. If you want to see what we write and how much better it is than McCarthy, you can check us out at DPW Podcasts on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you find links on there. You could go to my website, calebjameskay.com, find links to my work. Spencer, who does not ever want to have an fucking author page, apparently.
Yeah.
He can be found at his OnlyFans, which this week is the Tulsa Tonsil Tickler Church.
I thought it was Tonger.
The Tonsil Tickler Tonger Church. We thank you for listening, and we're going to get some writing done, so we'll check you out next week. Not next week. I mean, this will be out next week, but we'll check you out when we check you out.
Sometime in the future.
We'll be in your windows creeping.